Kelly Philpott is a family practice physician at ECU Physicians and clinical assistant professor at East Carolina University. Dr. Kelly Philpott is originally from Kansas City, Missouri. She completed her undergraduate studies and medical school education at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. Her family medicine residency at East Carolina University, in conjunction with Pitt County Memorial Hospital, brought her to Greenville, North Carolina. The most important fact about Kelly is that she is the blessed mother of 4 amazing children. Dr. Philpott, we welcome you to PCC and look forward to hearing more about your life and those amazing children.
First, I want to say that it's a pleasure to be able to talk to all of you guys today. Not because I'm really great at speaking, and not that I really enjoy it, but rather I do enjoy sharing God's story of our family with other people. And I thank you for being here to listen. I pray that God allows me to share what is necessary for all of you, and I hope that that's what you'll get from this talk. I've been in Greenville for 16 years. My husband and I came out here for residency, and after we completed residency, I started practicing with the University at ECU as a family physician. I've been there for 13 years. However, I don't know that that's exactly why I was asked to come and speak to you guys today. It's not, being a physician isn't exactly how I identify myself fully. I would say that I identify myself more as like I said, a blessed mother of 4 beautiful children and a woman that's led by God. Ever since I was young, I wanted to be a physician and a mother. Over time, with hard work, determination, blessings, and plenty of prayers, I became the physician that I had dreamed of being. In the process, I met my husband, we got married, and a couple years after we were married, we tried to have children, and we had difficulties with that. I feared that I would never be the mother that I had dreamed of being, and one night, I remember laying in bed praying, "Dear Lord, if you just give us a child, I'll do anything." Well, God answered my prayer, and that following month, we found out that we were pregnant with Riley. We have been so blessed and forever changed by that one answered prayer. Little did I know that my anything, what it would entail. And my anything is probably me still standing up here talking today about where God has taken me with that one blessing. Later, God blessed us with 3 more children, and we were happy. We were a full family. We were busy with work, and we took care of the kids and had fun. And I thought that I was a woman of character, courage, and commitment at that time. But in retrospect, I can look back and think it was really easy to keep those qualities and maintain those qualities when everything was going like I had planned and hoped. It's a different story to be able to keep those qualities when things start to fall apart around you. And in May of 2006, Riley was diagnosed with cancer. Our world was falling apart around us. The kids were young. Riley was just 5. Our youngest child was only 4 months old. Excuse me. The next 6 months were a blur. Chemotherapy, after surgery and radiation, Kirk and I were both working. We didn't have family in town. We took care of the kids. We took care of work. We took care of Riley's medical needs. And I certainly didn't want to ask anyone for help, because that would be admitting that I couldn't do it all myself. And that was something that was unthinkable at the time, and I just knew we would turn into our normal pre-cancer self and pre-cancer family eventually. And I thought, well, we'll do it all ourselves until that time. And however, 6 months after Riley finished treatment, our fragile normal crashed down on us again, and Riley relapsed. Over the next 4 years, Riley was in and out of the hospital, getting chemotherapy, having surgeries. She went to Chicago for 2 stem cell transplants. We did experimental treatments. And each time after we finished a therapy or a treatment, her cancer would return. It was during Riley's intense therapy that I guess myself, her probably would have accepted help a lot earlier than I, but it was during that time that I humbled myself and knew that we needed to ask others for help and accept the help that they were offering us. And the community came together to help us. And looking back, it was when I humbled myself to accept help. That's when I started to become the woman that I am today. And I think it's an amazing feature. Sometimes you have to accept help from others in order for you to be able to multiply those blessings to help others in return. And I pray that I can use the blessings that were given me to perhaps even help you guys here today. However, the community came together and they supported Riley and our family throughout our cancer journey. And in 2008, Kirk felt led to officially start Riley's Army as an organization to extend the assistance that the community offered to us, to extend that to other families that were battling childhood cancer here in our area. And since its conception, Riley's Army has helped serve over 100 families here in eastern North Carolina who have been battling childhood cancer. We've helped them to navigate the cancer world. And if you're interested in learning more about Riley's Army or possibly even helping out or volunteering, I'd like you to go to rileysarmy.com and just check it out and see if there's something that maybe you'll be led to do or to help. Unfortunately, Riley's cancer journey didn't end with an earthly cure. After battling cancer for about 5 years, she passed away just short of her 11th birthday. Most of you may say how horribly sad, and I say that too, but not Riley. She would say, "What are you guys all moping about?" Just like she asked her dad one night after bad scans. She didn't let anything stop her. I believe I became the woman today with courage, character, and commitment because of what I learned from Riley. Riley never allowed cancer to define her, and she didn't let the fear of death scare her from living. Character is continuing to live when things are down, and choosing to continue to play even when things aren't going your way. Riley never allowed her disease to keep her from living. She played soccer, volleyball, basketball, baseball, tennis. She went skiing, swimming, she ran, she rarely missed school. There was not much that stopped Riley, and certainly not cancer. I can remember she was playing soccer one season, and it happened to be when she was in the hospital 1 week out of 3, and she had a weeknight game, and one of the parents suggested that all the kids could go to the hospital and visit Riley, and another parent said, "Well, what's she doing in the hospital?" And the parent said, "Well, she's getting chemo." And the parent said, "Well, does she have cancer?" Now, I'm not certain what they thought we did with her hair, but I found that kind of funny. So, but, you know, she is an amazing child. And it's kind of like when we were going to the hospital one day for a transfusion, and Riley said, "Well, what's anemia?" And I said, "Well, it's when your blood count's low and it can make you feel fatigued and short of breath." And she said, "Yeah, I knew I was anemic." And I said, "Well, how did you know?" And she said, "Well, lately when we've been playing tag, I've had to stay closer to base." She never allowed her illness to keep her from living. Character is not allowing illness, failure, loss, anything of this world to define you or keep you from living. Riley taught me about character. Courage. Courage is being given bad news and not allowing it to control you. Courage, I believe, is impossible without faith. I can remember a particular day when Riley's scans weren't what we had hoped. Her tumors were bigger. Dr. Fu and Kirk and I were walking down the long hallway in the hospital, and we were defeated. We didn't know what we were going to do. And here comes Riley running up behind me, and she grabs my hand and she said, "Come skip with me." Well, how could I not? I had to. Her spirit that day transformed us all. At times, Riley's calm was, when things were bad, irritated me. I just didn't understand it. How could she be so unaffected by bad news or bad results? At times, I even thought it might have been an act just to keep Kirk and I at peace and calm. But we lived with her. We lived with her all 24/7, and she never broke. That calm was just part of who she was. And, with it being who she was, one day when she relapsed, I was crying, and somebody came into the exam room and gave Kirk a hug, and Riley said, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, Riley, your cancer's back." I said, "But we love you." I said, "But God loves you even more than we can imagine." And I said, "No matter how difficult our situation is, He's always right there with you." I said, "Sometimes we just don't understand His plan." She looked at me and she said, "Well, I do." And I said, "Well, as I'm having a difficult time here today, can you explain it to me?" And she said, "Well, His plan is to do what's best for all of us." And I realized that sometimes it didn't seem what was best for Riley or for me or our family, but only God knows what's best for all of us, and only He can coordinate what's best for all of us. So it was Riley's faith beyond my understanding that gave her courage. And it was her courage that helped my faith and courage to grow. Again, when she was 10 and we had exhausted all options of anything that would get to a medical cure for her, we had started some experimental treatments. And during that time, I would ask her regularly, because she was 10 and she was very aware of what was going on. And I would ask her, "Is there anything that worries you?" And she would say no. I'd say, "Well, is there anything that scares you?" And she'd say no. And one night, when laying in bed, I asked her the same questions, and she gave the typical response of no. And I thought, goodness, maybe she doesn't understand what's going on. Maybe she's in denial. Maybe she really doesn't understand the gravity of the whole situation. And I said, "Riley," I said, "do you know what's going on?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, can you explain it to me?" And she said, "Well, my cancer's back, and the doctors don't know what to do about it. And if they can't find anything to do about it, I'll die." And that night, I was broken. She knew what the whole situation was, yet she was okay with it. And she said, right in follow-up, she said, "But I think I know the plan." And I said, "Well, what's the plan?" And she said, "There'll be nothing to do and nothing to do. And then when my cancer's gone, you and Dad can write about it on care pages and show God's mighty power." And she said it just like that. And that night I was so uplifted. I thought for certain she would have a medical miracle and that this experimental treatment would cure her. Later, when she died, I was so confused. I just didn't get it. And so I reflected on what she had said and God's mighty power. And I thought, you know what? God's mighty power, it's bigger than this world. It's bigger than a cure here. His mighty power transcends death. It carries us to a new life. His mighty power is what gives us hope when the world around us is failing us. And Riley's life and Riley's death truly does portray God's mighty power. I do have to say that sometimes we think that having courage is not being afraid or not being fearful. And I have to tell you that that's not the case. Sometimes it's okay to be afraid. Sometimes it's normal to be afraid when we haven't experienced something. Right before Riley had died, the Saturday before she passed, I asked her again if there was anything that scared her or worried her, and we happened to be in Best Buy buying a 3D DS because she had to have it. And she said, I said, "Does anything scare you?" And she said, "Cancer." And I said, "Well, what about cancer scares you?" And she said, "That I might have to go to heaven." And I said, "Well, what about heaven scares you?" And she said, "Well, I don't know what it's like. I've never been there before." That weekend, as a family, we read Heaven is for Real. And 4 days later, Riley passed in my arms. It's normal to be afraid of things that you've never experienced before. But courage is not letting that fear control you. Riley taught me about courage. Now, commitment. Commitment is not just doing what we want to do. Commitment is doing what we're called to do. And sometimes God calls us to do things that we don't necessarily want to do. And I would have to say that me standing up here is God calling me to do something that I really didn't want to do. And 2 nights ago when I started crying because I didn't know what I was going to say, my 8-year-old said, well, Mom, just call him up and tell him that you changed your mind. You don't want to do that. And I thought, well, yeah, but the talk is about commitment. So here I am today, still talking to you. But truly, we don't know where God is going to take us or how he's going to lead us. And as for me, I was led by a child. Looking back, we realize that Riley was born committed to God. He created her to know him and to follow him, and he led her in the path. When she was 7 and she relapsed, I had a really hard time working and seeing patients. And I'd see a couple patients, I'd go back in my office and I'd cry. I'd go back and see a couple more patients and stop and cry. And my nurse came in while I was crying in my office and she said, Dr. Philpott, she said, God could have given Riley to anybody, but he chose to give her to you and Dr. Philpott because he knew you would do what he asked. And I was very surprised by that statement, and I reflected on it all day. And that night, after I talked to Kirk about it, that night when the other 3 kids were in bed, we sat and we talked to Riley. And I said, Riley, we're very blessed to have you. I said, God could have given you to anybody, but he chose to give you to us. And I'm very thankful for that. And Kirk said, Riley, where did you come from? And she said, duh, how could you not know? And so he said, well, how were you born? Or how did you get here? And she said, well, I was born. And he said, what were you born for? And as quick as she could have responded, she said, to please the Father. Now, how true her statement was that night and how powerful her message is for us even today. Riley committed her whole life to pleasing the Father. And even through death, she continues to do so. Riley taught me about commitment. I am blessed to have been chosen and considered a woman of character, courage, and commitment. But as a patient told me last week when he came into the office, he said, you are all those things, but I have to add something. You are a woman of faith. And I think that I challenge you all today to be that with me. Be a child of faith. Thank you for letting me speak today, and I want to thank my husband for coming to support me.